Hello, this is Mr. Doty, and in this video, what I'm going to try to do, I've got my webcam on here, and I've got the book. I don't know how well you can read this, but try to help you go along in the book and explain a little bit better, hopefully, especially for you guys who are online, a little bit about creating orthographic projections using AutoCAD. Chapter 3 introduces you to 3D or multi-view projection. In other words, you take a 3D object and make it flat into different views. You know, it's kind of like a cardboard box when you flip it open, right? One of the things that it starts out with, it starts out talking about layers. And it says chapter outline, introduction, layers. Then it starts talking about line types and line type scale, which is very important. The next thing that goes into it is talking about properties, the properties panel, printing using pin widths. I'm not really worried about that too much because that's something that, you know, when you go out in the real world, you actually learn a little bit more about that. But we can talk a little bit about it. And what you see isn't what you get necessarily. Sometimes you actually have to experiment with those to get them the way you want. There's a creating layers tutorial. So for those of you online, that'll be pretty helpful. Maybe I should have waited to create your template first here. I don't know. That's something I'll have to look at, especially since, you know, I haven't done this class online in a while, so, you know, it's one of those learning curves, especially with a different book, to go, hey, Mel, maybe you should do this. So moving along, setting up your drawing parameters, creating layers, drawing on the layers, line type scale, and the different line types that you use. Blocking, I'm not exactly sure where they're going with that. We'll look at it. Model and layout space, center lines, title block tutorial, and then the orthographic projection tutorial. So what I want to do is I want to break this into a couple of different videos. And this one's kind of the intro video, explain a little bit about what we're doing, and kind of look at it. So when you flip it over, and I've kind of got it sitting pointing at one side of the page, and you probably can't see the other one. That's okay. But if you have your book, you turn over to page 4-2, 4-3. On 4-3, you'll notice that basically what we're shooting for is we've got three views here. They've got, this is our front view, and the reason we know it's our front view is because it has the top view above it and the right side view beside it. And the reason that we need a right side view is so that we can see this circle or this hole. And even though this one has the least amount of hidden lines, this guy right here gives me a better top view. And depending on the size of it, even though this one's a cube because it's kind of 2" by 2" by 2", you want to look for your longest dimension. Now the PowerPoint doesn't exactly explain that. PowerPoint says to get the least amount of hidden lines. Well, if I was doing that, I would have picked this as my top view, but it might not have given me a really good view selection. So just remember that your front view determines how you find your other two views, and you got to make sure that you line them up. Okay, this guy has to be lined up because this is your height. They share height. Your front and top, they share width, and then these two views share depth. And there's a thing called a miter line that we're going to put in at 45 degrees that helps us to transfer things from between these two views. Alright, so that's just a down and dirty multi-view projection thing. Alright, as it goes along, we have, well, if I can move this along. So the next thing it has layers. So, you know, looking along, you can see, basically, if you think about it, this may date me a little bit, but Shrek's one of my favorite movies. And you know, ogres have layers. They're like onions. They have layers. And then, you know, Donkey says, but I like parfaits. Well, you know, I like to eat. So food is always good. Lasagna has layers, you know. You have a layer of noodles, and you have a layer of goo, then you have a layer of noodles, and you have a layer of goo. Well, if you think about it this way, each one of my layers on CAD, I have different things. Like I have my drawing views on one layer, my object lines, or visible lines. And then my hidden lines would be on a different layer, my center lines on a different layer, my dimensions on a different layer. And then if you line these all up, they all line up, and boom, everything's there. So let me see. Well, I can pull up this drawing right here. This is an architectural drawing, okay? So if I pull this up, you'll notice that I have green, I have red, there's some yellow, looks like white, lots of different things. All right, so you're saying, okay, well, what exactly does that have to do with anything? Well, up here in the top, in your ribbon, you know, under the home, you have your layer properties, right? Well, this guy right here it's your layer manager that you can adjust things while you're drawing. You can also do that through, if I click off of it, your layer properties box, which just popped up on the other screen and won't come over. Why won't it come over? Pardon me. All right, so now be careful with this guy because he can kind of hang out in different places, and you know, you can adjust him. Used to, this came out up as a dialog box, and you know, you had to close it out to be able to go back to your drawing. Well, now it's a palette, so it'll hang out. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll stick him over here on the left. I don't want to dock him like that. See, if I pull him over, it docks. I don't want to do that. I want to hang him out right here, and see, you have this auto hide deal, because you can pick on it and it'll go away or it'll stay. So when I go in and I set up a template, which I'll make up another video on that, because there's a certain way I like to do it, and I don't know that we have a good video on it anyway. So you always have layer 0. When you use dimensions, when you create dimensions, it creates a depth points layer. And then I have a border layer for some reason. I have a dim layer, a fixtures layer, a hatch layer, a walls layer, and a windows and doors. Well, you'll notice that on this one, since it's architectural, I didn't have a hidden, the center, you know, the other, you know, phantom line ones that I'll have you do for your template. This was something I pulled up because I needed to use it for another class, and I just given you an example of layers. So each of these are layers, and I can turn them off and on. Like I can turn the 0 layer off and on. There's the border. See, the border went away. Dimensions. If I don't want dimensions, turn them off. The fixtures, which is, you know, refrigerator, sink, toilets, those kinds of things. Hatch. Alright, now I can see the walls. So let's say I didn't want to see the hatch, right? Hatch is off. Text. I didn't. Oh no. Current layer turns off. Well, you might get that error, and that's a good thing that I showed you that. You're like, how do you know what's the current layer? Well, it's check marked on this guy. And then if you look up here, I'm not in a command. I just have this open. So I'm not really in a command. I just have this open. It's just hanging out. But right now I'm on text, and I can still pick this up here. But that tells me which one it is currently on. Now you'll notice that all of these over here are set to continuous. That's interesting. So what I've done is I've gone in and I don't have this on a hidden line layer. Well, what if I wanted to make a new layer and call it hidden? So let me just pick that and make a new layer. Let's just call it hidden. You know, and all the rest of them are in all caps, so I guess I should keep it in all caps. So HIDDEN, hidden. Boom. Right, and it's on. It's green because it copied basically the one that I was sitting on. So what if I want a different color? Pick on the color thing pops up somewhere else. It should pop up here. I have two screens, so stuff pops up in different places. All right, let's say that I wanted those to be magenta because I don't have anything that color. And you're like, what the heck's magenta? It's kind of a purple-ish color, pink purple, not Pepto-Bismol, but anyway. I choose from this usually. I mean, you can go up here. You've got all kinds of colors. I mean, heck, you want to get really wild, you can go in here and pick all kinds of strange colors. See, boom, I can pick that color right there. Or I could come over here and pick, ooh, here, let's get something really Pepto-Bismol-y, purpley or something, right? You know, I want something a little different, but something that'll show up, right? Anyway, and then there's color books, and yeah, man, you got too many choices. So what do? I stick with this, and half the time I just go and pick my normal, you know, standard shades of whatever. I mean, I could even pick a gray color if I wanted to. All right, well, anyway, let's say I pick this color, I hit OK, boom. So now it's color 254. Well, that's fine. Now, I need a line type. So I need to pick on line type. See, it says line type. And these are all the ones that I have loaded. Well, if they weren't there, what I'd have to do is I'd click on load, and then come in here and I'd scroll down. Now, let me warn you and explain something to you here. You'll notice you have center, center 2, and center times 2. All right, so center 2 is half the size of center. Center 2x is 2 times the size of center. Well, whatever you pick, try to be consistent. What I try to do is I just pick the regular center, and then I hit OK to load it. Hidden, the regular hidden, I use that one. Because there's this other thing called line type scale, and if you don't have your lines the same type, or you know, scale basically, or size, then they're not going to scale right, and it's just going to frustrate you. So try to keep things simple. Look, you have a gas line, a fence line, you have all these other lines, and you know, I went over line types earlier in chapter 2, or at the end of chapter 2, I think, somewhere in there. So this hopefully is a review, and if not, I'll add more stuff, right? So obviously a center line goes for things that are, you know, you need the center of something. Hidden lines, you show things that are hidden. In architecture, I'm going to show that my cabinets, where they are, is above where I'm looking at, because my floor plan is basically a section view. It's like you took a chainsaw and you went up about 4 feet on the wall and you cut through the side of the house and ripped the top off, right? Well, you know, above 4 feet, which would be my cabinets that are upper cabinets, I can't see those, so I have to show them hidden. Just something to think about. All right, and there's other things, you know, like phantom lines and so on. And I'll do another presentation on line types, and we can go from there. All right, so anyway, once you've got all these loaded, because you can just click, you know, on whatever it is, try not to do these ISO ones, okay? We don't do ISO, we ANSI, and ANSI is, you know, these other ones. So let's say, for example, you don't need to do this one, but let's say I wanted to add that one and I hit OK. And there it is. Because see, I already had hidden, I already had phantom, I already had center. So I didn't want to load it again and give an error, okay? And I don't know why that has to do that. So, back to what layer I'm on. I'm on hidden. I picked on this, so I need to pick hidden. Hit OK. And now it's hidden. And you're saying, well, what does that mean? Okay, so I showed you how to create a layer. I showed you how to name it there. Oh, by the way, if you right click, If you want to rename it, you can. You can delete it, set it current. You can also double click and do that. See? I didn't want to do that. There we go. Anyway, now def points will not print. It'll show up, but it won't print. And I do most of my borders and stuff on 0 layer. Okay, so we've got line types and all that, at least set up. So I'm just going to hit this little button here and kind of shut him down for a sec. Now, let's go up here. I picked a 0 for me to be on. Well, let's say I want to be on, where's it at? Hidden. There we go. All right, so these would be our hidden lines. They're not on the right layer. Well, if I were to draw a line, and I drew a line across here, then obviously it'll become a hidden line. That's good. Well, what if I already have something that's on the wrong layer and I want to put it on the right layer? Well, I can pick those items, let's say. You're like, how are you picking stuff? Well, if your left mouse button is your pick button, and then you pull to the left, that's a crossing window, which means that anything you touch, it'll pick. If you go from left to right, you have the blue or solid window, and you have to be all the way around it to pick it. You see, like I can do this, and I didn't pick anything. Whereas if I went all the way around that guy, it'll pick him. See, if I go all the way around that guy, and then I don't really want to go all the way around that guy, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick that guy. Alright, so now what? If you look up here, it says I'm on walls. I don't want to be on walls, I want to be on hidden. So pick hidden. Now I'm going to hit escape to deselect everything, and now they're on the correct layer. So, you know, it's really easy to do that. Alright, so that's just a little short lesson on layers and how they work. So you're saying, alright, well, what are you talking about? Well, okay, so when you start a drawing, you're going to use a template, and you'll notice that I don't have any special templates already lined out in here because I'm using 2020 and I haven't done anything. So if you're starting out and you haven't created a template yet, then you start off with this acad.dwt. I'm not opening the file, but I'm using it as something to start with. It's not going to save over it, which is why we use it as a template file. So I don't open it unless I need to edit it. Try to keep that in mind. So there you go. Alright, and I'm about done with this video, but I just want to kind of show you this is starting from scratch with a drawing. And you know, in chapter 2 you went in and you drew some stuff, right? Well, you don't have any layers. So let's open this guy back up. So what I'm going to do at some point is make another video and explain how to go through and set up your template. But here's just the basics on some layers, and we'll just move on from there. So layers. So I'm just going to make a whole bunch of layers because I need about 4 or 5. And I gave you the an example. You can pick whatever color you want, just need the right, you know, names, and I need the right line types. Alright, layer 1. I'm going to right click and rename. I'm going to call it hidden. Whoops. I do a lot of whoops. And the next one I'm going to call center. And you're like, how are you doing that? Well, if you pick it and then wait a second and then pick it again, it'll go to this. edit mode. So I apologize if it just blew your mind. See, I can right click and go to rename. Let's see, dim for dimensions because I'm lazy. See, pick, then wait a second, then pick. Let's see, layer 5 dimension. All right, I have a separate one for text. You're like, why do you have a separate one for text? Well, what if I didn't want the dimensions to show, but I needed the text? Okay, so you can use layers to filter things out on different views so that you can have everything drawn on one view if you wanted to. Like if you had your electrical on top of your floor plan and you didn't want to show the dimensions, so you turn the dimensions off for that view. Anyway. Alright, so like I said, I'm gonna do a video on how to do your template, and that's fine. This is just a layers video, I guess, dealing with parts of chapter 4 since that's where they pull it in. Okay, so you've got text. Next thing I'm going to do is come over for colors. This is me. I do green for that. I do my teacher growing up when I went to school. His name was Z, or Mr. Zimmerman. Very awesome dude. Vietnam vet. Really laid back kind of guy. Just a real good guy. And very helpful in helping me figure out things. And so anyway, I'm picking out these colors and going from there. Yeah, let's go make it do that. They don't have to be completely different, but in this case I am. And I'm going to leave 0 white because there's a thing that I want to, you know, when you do your border and stuff, that's on your template, that's where you would use it. Alright, so I've made these, and then like I showed you a minute ago, I'm going to click on here. There's nothing, so I need to go to load, and I'm looking for hidden lines. So let's see, hidden line. There's a hidden line. Alright, then I want to pick it and hit OK. Now it's hidden. Click on there. Go to load. Find the center line. And I just picked the regular center line. And then I need to go back and pick it before I get out of here. Pick center. Okay. Object is continuous. There's no dashes or anything. Dimension, there's no dashes. And text. Alright, there's one more. And we don't use it very often, but I want you to have it on there, which is phantom. And the phantom line, I am going to make it the same as my center line color, not that it matters, and I need to make sure I have the right one, so I need phantom, and there's phantom, and OK, and then pick phantom, and then hit OK. Alright, so there you go. There are my layers that I want, and those are the layers that you're going to start off with for your template that you should have already made because of where I put it. And if you don't understand that thing, I'm going to make a video and we'll see how it goes. So we're at about 24 minutes, and hopefully that gives you an idea of how to do layers. So we'll catch you on the next video. Have fun.